support growth and innovation across our country and our riding. I congratulate the candidates on their commitment to our community and for their leadership in seeking the opportunity to represent the riding of Brantford-Brant South, Six Nations in Ottawa. The candidates invited are Mr. Larry Brock, Conservative Party of Canada; Karleigh Csordas, Green Party of Canada; and Gajerski, New Democratic Party; Joy O'Donnell, the Liberal Party of Canada. The other candidates in this riding are Nicholas Zenos, People's Party of Canada, and Independents Cleo Marie, Leslie Borey, and Mike Clancy. Each candidate will have 3 minutes to make opening remarks. The order of speaking has been determined by a random draw. I will ask a number of questions. Each candidate will have the opportunity to respond to each question. And again, a 2-minute time limit will be imposed. In the instance of one candidate making specific reference to another, the candidate will be allowed a 45-second rebuttal. Each candidate will allow 2 minutes for closing statement, and the speaking order will be reversed to the opening remarks. The timekeeper will indicate when the candidates have 15 seconds remaining to speak, and then when they have reached the maximum time allowed. In the case of a challenge, the decision of the moderator is final. I will ask the candidates to adhere to agreed upon format and exercise professional decorum throughout this debate. Thank you. We begin with the candidates' opening remarks. The first candidate to speak will be Larry Brock.
Hello, Brantford-Brant South and Six Nations. After 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals, Canada is weak, Canada is not strong. They created the perfect storm for President Trump to impose tariffs on our nation. And this is exactly what the Liberal Party wants this election to be about. Trump cannot be controlled. Mark Carney cannot control Trump, but we can, as Canadians, control our destiny. Let me be clear, Conservatives take this threat very seriously. We will fight back against the unfair trade actions from President Trump and stand up for Canadian workers and industries. We'll support the people and businesses impacted by these unjust tariffs with real action. But the people I speak to every day in our community have concerns about a lot more than just tariffs. They're concerned about the rising cost of living, the housing crisis, public safety, responsible tax stewardship, accountability, and a lack of trust in government. Whether I'm talking to families in Brantford, seniors in Burford, workers in Cairnsville, or parents in Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the Credit, the message is the same. Life has become unaffordable. Taxes are up, groceries are up, mortgages are out of reach, and basic necessities are slipping further away. As a husband, a father of teenage twin daughters, and someone who has served this community for over 2 decades, first in the courtroom, now in Parliament, I bring experience and results, not empty words. In fact, it has been an honor and a privilege to have served you in my riding. I know I can be passionate at times. That's because I care deeply about this community and the seriousness of the challenges we face. Whether it's affordability, housing, skilled labor, or reconciliation, we don't need more government photo ops. We need real action. The Conservative plan is straightforward. Axe taxes on Canadians, including workers and seniors, and lower income taxes to make work pay. Build more homes by cutting red tape and removing bureaucratic delays. Launch a Blue Seal program so skilled workers can get to work faster. And stand up for local businesses by ending interprovincial trade barriers and retaliating smartly against unfair U.S. tariffs. This election is about bringing home affordability, safety, and opportunity. And I'm ready to fight that every day as your next member of Parliament.
Thank you. And Gajerski, Karleigh.
Greetings, and I want to bring greetings from Jagmeet Singh, our federal NDP leader in this country. And I just wanted to say I was recently at the Brantford Farmers Market gathering signatures for Elections Canada, which is required to be a candidate in this election. And I ran into a man and approached him, and he was angry and flustered and expressed nothing but contempt for our political system, a lack of faith in those that are politicians, that serve the public, and seemed checked out. He was checked out. This was not someone who was going to vote. And I reflected on that after I left, and I thought there's a lot of Canadians that feel the same way, that just will not vote because they don't feel that they have any real choices, that their vote does not matter. And that is not true. And it's also not true that there aren't people that seek candidates to be candidates who are only interested in power and influence and money. I've known many people who have served the public who actually care about the well-being of their constituents. And that's why I'm running. And I hope that you will consider voting for the New Democratic Party as this election nears, because we actually care very deeply about the affordability issues, the well-being and the health, the social health, the physical health and mental well-being of our constituents, of our communities. And that's what we're fighting for. And that is why we got 24 New Democratic MPs who got pharmacare and pharmacare and dental care for Canadians, because we leveraged our 24 MPs to get that for millions of people, to make life more affordable and more sustainable. So in this election, please vote NDP.
Thank you. Joy O'Donnell.
Thank you, John. And thanks also to the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant for hosting this debate. And thank you to Rogers for broadcasting it. And thank you for watching. As I go door to door throughout this great riding, I hear the worry in people's voices, and I see the uncertainty and the anxiety in their eyes. The reality of Trump tariffs are upon us. And that's why our country needs to fight back. It's why I'm excited to be the Mark Carney Liberal candidate for Brantford-Brant South Six Nations. Mark Carney is the right man in the right place at the right time. In this election, Canada has the leader, the team, and the plan to get us through these tough times. Mark Carney will continue to stand up to Mr. Trump. And since he has become leader, we hear way less about becoming the 51st state. I want to make sure that our riding receives the new trade benefits that will come from a Mark Carney government in Ottawa. I am the proud daughter of a steelworker, and I worked in the steel mills to put myself through university. And as a business person and a community volunteer for the past 30 years in Brantford, I understand what our communities need to get through these tough times. I will work around the clock for you. I will make sure the federal government is there to help workers and businesses. I will be there for our youth, for our seniors, for our first-time home buyers, for our First Nations, for seniors, for single people, for disabled people, for those individuals and families that are suffering through addiction issues and mental health challenges. My work as a financial planner and as a longtime member of the Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant, it has given me the insight to what our community needs for our local economy during these current challenges. Having worked with local governments and associations throughout my life, I appreciate the importance of making sure people sit down together and listen and learn from each other and learn to hear what they have to say. It has always been a great honor for me to give back to my community through whether I'm volunteering through healthcare, through as a Rotarian, or as a conservationist. I am now humbly and respectfully asking for your vote on April 28th to keep me working for you as your next MP. Please vote for Joy O'Donnell. Elbows up and Canada strong.
Thank you. Karleigh.
Hey everyone, Karleigh Csordas here, and I'm back again. And I'm proud to be a continued candidate for you for Green Party in Brantford-Brant South, Six Nations. Thank you to the Brant Chamber of Commerce, as well as Rogers TV for hosting this event. I always have to say it brings meaningful civic engagement, and I have a true privilege to be here and to be a part of the democratic process because of these organizations. I'm privileged to be here to help shape the opportunity of our future. I'm not here to play politics as usual. I'm here to lead with courage and to stand strong for Canada. I'm here to listen to you, and I will continue to earn each and every vote until I receive my seat in Parliament. I graduated from the University of Waterloo with a Bachelor's of Science, honors in kinesiology, along with a postgraduate diploma in clinical kinesiology. My professional background includes working in physiotherapy clinics, long-term care homes, and adult day centers. This experience has deepened my understanding of our healthcare system and the people it serves. For the past 2.5 years, I've taken a different kind of service role, a customer success manager at a local company based in Brantford. In this position, I work closely with entrepreneurs every day, helping them succeed on a platform and supporting the growth of their small business. Simply put, I have a heart for both healthcare and small businesses, and I bring that passion into everything that I do. I'm also proud to serve my community in an environmental capacity. I was the previous co-chair of the City of Brantford's Environment and Sustainability Policy Advisory Committee, and I'm the former chair, but a forever dedicated volunteer of the Brantford Green Team. Our focus is to increase waste diversion at public events and festivals. You'll see me this year on Canada Day again. We've been working since 2018 to make it a zero waste festival. Whether it's in healthcare, in small business, or environmental advocacy, my passion lies in building stronger, healthier communities, both through action and not just through our words. With Donald Trump in the White House, the stakes for Canada could not be higher. He's openly referred to Canada as the 51st state, which is a signal of how little respect that he has for our independence, and we won't stand for it. We also need an MP that will bring back hope for democracy in our riding. And this starts with listening to our community, bringing those solutions to Ottawa so that we can all be heard. I truly wish our incumbent would spend less time, even just a fraction of that time, that they use to create their smear campaigns and divert that energy into actually figuring out how to make the government work better. We can function effectively when we listen better, and we must vote for our future so that we're looking forward to getting there. So let's make sure we get there together and bring back democracy.
Thank you. Our very first question. We are in unprecedented times regarding our relationship with the United States and on challenges facing business owners. What is your experience addressing the challenges of the business community, and how does your party propose to meet the U.S. tariff threats and to increase business confidence and predictability? Starting with Anne.
Well, you're correct, John, about that. I mean, in my lifetime, I have never seen this. I've never seen such a threat to both to our sovereignty and to our economy. And we are having to deal with a very highly unstable person in the White House and a government that is treating us, very, very badly and alienating all of our allies. And so we have been the first and Mexico have been the first to face this. The tariffs are a very serious issue. And Brantford is in a particularly vulnerable spot across this country and within the top 5 because of the manufacturing sector here and also because of the ag sector. And what can we do about that? The New Democratic Party believes at this time, this is not the time for tax cuts because tax cuts involves service cuts. And we will see unemployment rise, and people need to have access, greater access, not less access to employment insurance. And they also need better access to mental health care And tax cuts will result in mental health cuts. So at this time, as we face this, and we face job losses, and we face the outproducts of unemployment and stress, we need to be investing in healthcare. We need to be investing in our social programs. So this is not the time to cut taxes, particularly for the wealthy. And there you go.
Karleigh.
We can't talk about economic growth and sovereignty without recognizing the impact that deep social challenges are having on both our communities, both in Brantford as well as in Six Nations and including Brant South. Business owners are on the front lines of the housing crisis, mental health emergencies, and addiction struggles. And these are not just social concerns, they are economic ones because our businesses need confidence in our riding. When communities are in crisis, small businesses suffer from workforce shortages, from safety concerns, as well as an increased financial strain. And we believe that true sovereignty means recognizing and respecting Indigenous rights and leaderships, ensuring Indigenous communities, not Ottawa and not Queen's Park, that Six Nations and our Indigenous communities are empowered to shape their economic future. That's not a sideline issue in our riding because we include Six Nations of the Grand River, so it must be central to our vision for growth. Some parties focus on reactive solutions. We'll hear from it shortly. More policing, tougher bail conditions, while ignoring the root cause that creates instability in the first place. But the evidence is clear. If we want real community safety, we need to invest in government housing, mental health care, addiction support, and preventative programs that offer people a path forward, not just punishment. The Green Party takes a different approach. While others still trickle down economics while offering tax breaks, we're going to be offering tax breaks to the wealthy. They have been offering tax breaks to the wealthy in hopes that it will trickle down into our community. But we know that's not working. We're committed to fully funding a national mental health care plan, ensuring we have deep, affordable housing, and launching a universal basic income to ensure that nobody gets left behind.
Joy?
The Mark Carney Liberal team will deliver for our riding. We will fight the Trump tariffs, build a diversified and growing economy to be the strongest in the G7 by adding new trading partners and new markets for all communities. We will protect the workers and the families who are going to be vulnerable during this trying time in our community as well by making it easier to access EI. And, for those affected by layoffs, we will be cutting taxes, strengthening social assistance support programs, and protecting retirement savings. Immediately following the election, as your MP, I will convene a community advisory task force to develop an economic action plan for our area. I will consult each and every month with the Chamber, with the unions, with municipal representatives, and the housing sectors, along with young people, educators, nurses, first responders, social services, and health agencies and the housing sector. I will host a town hall meeting to hear what the people of Brantford-Brant South Six Nations have to say and learn what they need so I can better support them with your voice in Ottawa.
Larry?
Brantford is one of the most vulnerable communities to U.S. tariffs. This is a critical issue where many manufacturers and suppliers rely upon stable, predictable trading relationships. I've heard directly and met with dozens of local businesses and industries who are being squeezed by unpredictable tariffs. As your MP, I have written letters to Liberal ministers to advocate for retaliatory tariff exemptions on their behalf and sadly received absolutely no response, just crickets. The reality is we can't control Donald Trump, but we can't rely upon Liberal photo ops either and phone calls to make these issues go away. We need a serious plan. This is the Conservative plan. We'll introduce a Keep Canadian Working Fund, a $3 billion temporary loan program for businesses to keep workers employed. will engage in strategic negotiations with the U.S. to eliminate unfair tariffs with a focus on protecting sectors like steel, aluminum, agriculture, and auto parts. Retaliate smartly by targeting imported goods we don't need, that we can produce ourselves or can source from trusted allies without harming Canadian consumers or businesses. Create a Canadian trade resilience strategy to identify supply chain vulnerabilities and reduce dependency on any single market. Support affected industries and workers with targeted relief to help them adapt and stay competitive. Launch a Made in Canada tax credit to encourage reshoring of manufacturing and investment in domestic production. Strengthen interprovincial trade by removing barriers between provinces, creating one true Canadian economic market to improve resilience. Simply put, Conservatives will fight for you with our economic action plan. We will fight for your job, for your industry, for our community. We will build an economic fortress here in Canada.
Perfect. Question number 2. Canada faces significant challenges in developing and retaining skilled labor and talent, from millwrights to family doctors. How does your party propose to address the shortage of skilled labor in Canada? Starting with Joy.
Well, we have a very skilled and smart workforce in our community. It has been the backbone of our community and how we developed as Brantford-Brant South Six Nations. We're not afraid of hard work. And right now, we need to build Canada strong. We must support our workers, and that's including, plant workers, parts workers, bricklayers, crane operators, welders, pipe fitters, industrial inspectors like my husband Joe. We must do everything we can to both strengthen our existing workforce, but also bring new jobs to our community. Ferrero is a great example of growth in our community, but we need more Ferreros. We need more funding for apprenticeships and for our community colleges and university to deliver on those programs locally. For Mohawk College, Conestoga, Wilfrid Laurier, and the union trades, we need that skilled training support. And Mark Carney is going to deliver with an additional $100 million for those programs. We will provide new apprenticeship grant of $8,000 for all registered apprenticeships. And I will make sure that the individuals and employers in our area benefit from all of those programs that are available. Also locally, I am committed to ensuring that we expand tourism and conservation opportunities, generating more jobs and more visitors to our community.
Thank you. Anne.
Yes, this is a critical question because a strong economy relies upon an educated workforce. And unfortunately, we have seen over the decades, and we were especially seeing in the trades, aging workers and not enough replacements to start to fulfill those jobs. A friend of mine has worked as a school board trustee, has worked to try and encourage in the schools, in the public education system, an interest in and engaging with careers in the trades. And we absolutely need to be doing that in order to meet the requirements for housing and for building and all those things that we need for infrastructure. So we need to make that more attractive to young people to be able to be going into those. As well for doctors and nurses. We have been chasing our medical personnel leaving our country, going to the US to make higher salaries. And what we need to do, because both education and healthcare are both responsibilities, the spending is the responsibility of the provinces, so we need to increase those transfers, those economic transfers to the provinces in order to make that to make these goals viable. So and that requires increasing our tax base, not cutting. You cut taxes, you cut transfers to the provinces, they're not going to be able to resolve these problems of shortages of critical workers.
Good. Larry.
This is the challenge I hear about constantly from businesses, from small businesses to large manufacturers. Skilled labor is one of their biggest challenges. I recently filmed an advocacy piece with a local drilling company who told me plainly their number one barrier to growth is access to skilled labor. And it's not just about attracting talent, it's about removing the roadblocks that keep skilled people out of our community from getting to work. How the Conservatives will fix it is as follows. We'll launch a national Blue Seal certification, allowing qualified tradespeople, doctors, and nurses to work anywhere in Canada without having to requalify in each province. We'll streamline the credential recognition process for internationally trained professionals so they can start working within weeks, not years, on arriving. We're going to restore the apprenticeship grant the Liberals eliminated, providing up to $6,000 for young people to train in high-demand trades. We'll invest in 350,000 new skilled trades apprenticeships across the country in partnership with unions and industry. We have talented people right here in our community. What they need is a government that clears the path so they can contribute, grow, and succeed. We'll ensure Canadians and newcomers alike can fill the jobs we desperately need to grow our economy. Thank you.
Karleigh.
We can't keep relying on unstable global markets to decide our fate, and we really need to invest into our labor, our skilled labor. But I can't recognize this until we first recognize that Election Day is on the National Day of Mourning, where we recognize those who have been injured in the workplace or those who have lost their lives. So it's really important. I want to take time to encourage everybody to vote ahead of Election Day and make sure that we do reserve this day for our skilled laborers and those who have lost their lives at work. You can feel the pressure inside of our riding with, you see shutting front doors, you see uncertainty within factory floors, you see parents trying to stretch every dollar. And we're a region built on hard work, on manufacturing, agriculture, trades, and tight-knit community ties. But now that foundation is shaking. The new U.S. tariffs has shaken us, but it's our duty to maintain a stable foundation. From auto sector to food, to auto parts, to Brantford's economy, it is all on the front lines of this trade war that we did not ask for. And we're among the hardest hits in any region in Canada. We're not waiting for any of the markets to course correct. We have a real plan to support our labor forces. We need to invest into the green economy, retrofit homes so we can save money by saving energy, launch a just transitional plan so that workers affected by trade shifts or automations aren't being left behind. This includes training, apprenticeship access, and job guarantees backed by income supporters. We need to introduce a universal basic income because we know on a rise of a recession, there's layoffs, we need retraining, career changes, and nobody can be left falling through the cracks. We need to support Indigenous-led economic development, and we also need to strengthen our domestic manufacturing and using Canadian steel, local materials, and local talent to reduce our dependency on a volatile training market.
Thank you. Question number 3. Housing affordability and our growing public infrastructure deficit continues to be a significant issue in communities across Canada. What will your party do to enable more housing to be built faster and to modernize our roads, bridges, rail, and airport infrastructure? Starting with Karleigh.
Yeah, when we talk about our housing as well as our infrastructure, like our roads and our airports, we're not just talking about buildings. We're talking about dignity, survival, and those who get to belong in the community. And with rising inflation and a looming tariff war that's threatening our economic stability, we must act now to protect those who are hit hardest. And this is ensuring that the cost of living for those, the cost of living is rising. So those like our seniors, people with disabilities, low-income families, and young people are not being priced out of the market. I've spoken with elders who say, I see a new house going up, but I'm never going to afford to live there. So that's not affordability, and that's considered exclusion. So we need to build affordable housing. As a first-time home buyer, I'll tell you firsthand, we're not buying shiny new builds. We're buying fixer-uppers, and we're lucky if we get a chance to be in the market without an inspection. We're scraping together every penny just to get a roof over our heads. So slashing tax on new builds like the Conservatives propose aren't going to touch the crisis that we actually need in the housing market. So here's some math. The median income in Brantford is $41,000 a month, and that means affordable housing should cost no more than $1,100 a month. But nothing new is being built here that meets our needs. And we don't need any more McMansions. We need to build this within our immediate roadways because we do pay for the taxes that build out to the housing that we cannot afford. 58% of Canadians are living paycheck to paycheck, and people are doing everything that they can, yet we're still falling behind. We will launch the largest public housing program since the 1970s using Canadian materials, creating local jobs, and funding co-ops, nonprofits, and wraparound porches. We must not ignore Six Nations, which faces its own housing crisis while the federal government continues to delay the resolving 1995 land claim. We demand no further delays, and we also must support off-reserve.
Joy.
Well, in the time of an economic crisis, affordable housing is needed more than ever. People have told me at the doors that they're worried about trying to make their next mortgage payment or their next rent payment. The Mark Carney Liberals have a plan for affordable housing that has been endorsed by the Canadian Federation of Municipalities and many others. We're going to get the government back to building homes. They haven't done that since after the war. By providing $35 billion in financing for home builders, especially for building affordable homes. That's where we have to concentrate our efforts now. We will build 500,000 new homes in a year. And as your MP, I will make sure that the new funding and housing access comes to our community, Brantford-Brant South Six Nations, and that we get rents that are affordable. In addition, a Carney government will eliminate the GST on first-time home builders, on first-time home buyers, and will reduce the red tape to make sure those homes get built.
Thank you. Larry.
Well, let's face it, we definitely have a housing crisis in this country and this community after 10 years of failed housing policies by the Liberal government. We need to get shovels in the ground immediately. Too many bureaucratic delays are holding us back. I've spoken to contractors in Brantford who have waited years to get approvals. That's simply unacceptable. Canada has one of the largest land masses in the world, yet we have the fewest homes in the G7. We can't build fast enough to meet the demand because of outdated systems, regulations, and taxes. We will incentivize municipalities to speed up construction that will reduce the red tape that's paralyzing the housing market. Municipal costs are too high and layered with tax upon tax that's driving up the price of every new home. The Conservative plan is simple. We're going to scrap the GST on new homes under $1.3 million, saving home buyers $65,000 on the purchase of a home in major cities and reduce mortgage payments by approximately $3,000 annually. We're also going to cut building taxes. That's a $50,000 savings for new home buyers. Combining the two policies alone will lower the cost of a new home by up to $115,000. We're also going to tie federal infrastructure funding to a requirement that municipalities increase housing completions by 15% annually. We're going to sell off 6,000 federal buildings and lands to accelerate new housing supply. We're going to streamline permitting and cut delays so home builders can get to work without jumping through years of red tape. Canada has the land, the talent, and the need. We just need to get the government out of the way and let builders build.
Thank you. And Anne.
We are in a housing crisis because there have been literally decades and decades and decades where the federal government has, regardless of whether it's been conservative or liberal, have failed to invest in affordable housing for people that need it. And so this has been building and building and has finally reached a crisis point. So this has been a long-term problem that should have been addressed in the 80s and 90s and wasn't. In the last 10 years, we have seen an increase in house prices go up 89%. Incomes have gone up 21%. So there is this huge gap and a huge 2 new generations of people who cannot even dream of being able to get cobbled together enough money for a down payment to buy their own home. And so we need to do something about that. One of the things the NDP proposes on public land is to build nonprofit housing, so that people that would like to own a home but can't afford it will be able to get into that. The other thing is we need to deal with corporate landlords who buy up large pieces of property and affordable homes and then tear them down and are doing this for large profits. So we need to be able to address this is a social inequity that we need to deal with. And the other thing that we need to say is that Pierre Poilievre let 800,000 affordable homes to be sold off to developers, and he built a ground total of 6 affordable homes in the past, and so we cannot trust the Conservatives to do this, and we cannot.
Question number 4. The Chamber is committed to leading efforts to implement the recommendations of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission for the business community in the Brantford-Brant. As the Indigenous community represents a key part in our economy, how will you represent the needs of the rapidly growing part of our region? Starting with Karleigh.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm going to finish my last sentence on housing and infrastructure because it is related to Indigenous affairs. So we need to support off-reserve Indigenous people who are the most disproportionately affected by homelessness. Mm-hmm. And we stand on the rich culture and history and the enduring presence of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people. I am privileged to have grown up with so many friends from Six Nations who've welcomed me into their homes since I was younger. They've taught me through actions and not just words what it means to walk side by side in peace, in friendship, and mutual respect. Through my continued learning about our shared history and relationship with Six Nations, I am committed to paving the way for Indigenous voices to be heard. I will continue to show up as a familiar face to build trust and to work together through legacies of colonization as a friend and ally. And I'll continue to show up and listen with integrity. The Two-Row Wampum Treaty affirms that Indigenous and settler nations travel side by side in separate vessels, neither steering the other, and that principle of mutual respect and sovereignty must shape every single decision that we make nation to nation, especially in business. We have a clear path ahead to focus on economic resilience, to make sure that we have justice for land claims, access to housing, clean water, and also support for Indigenous-led development. I support the resolution of the 1995 Six Nations land claim without delay if I'm elected on April 28th. We need to invest in community-led housing and infrastructure and ensure Indigenous youth have real opportunities. We must continue to honor every child that's entered the residential schools, and every child who survived, and every family that is still grieving. Reconciliation isn't a checkbox, it's a daily practice, and I'm committed to continuing to learn.
Thank you. Joy.
It is very significant and positive development that Six Nations is now named in our riding name. This is very much in line with the Liberal Party's commitment to truth and reconciliation and building new relationships with the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe. My visits to Six Nations throughout this election campaign have been both challenging and inspiring. I too grew up in Caledonia, went to high school with a number of friends from Six Nations and Mississaugas of the Credit. And I have very deep roots along the Grand River where my ancestors actually walked to the Grand River Valley from after the War of Independence. And we were allies with the Six Nations then, and we should rebuild that and strengthen that relationship now. There is so much more that can be accomplished by truly listening and consulting with our First Nations neighbors and allies, acknowledging the work that needs to be done together and respectfully in a positive way.
Thank you. Larry.
As your former Crown attorney, I worked closely with Six Nations of the Grand River and Mississaugas of the Credit to support restorative justice initiatives. I spent years building real relationships with Indigenous leaders across the riding, not for photo ops, but to listen, learn, and act. One of the most fundamental responsibilities of a member of Parliament is to listen before speaking. That principle has guided how I approach reconciliation with respect, humility, and an open ear. I spent time working directly with schools in the community where I've seen firsthand the importance of education, healthcare, and safety as foundational needs. I work closely with Six Nations on projects that support Mohawk language preservation, and I'm proud of the work we've done with the school to strengthen Indigenous culture identity. The Liberal government made big promises on clean water over 10 years ago, yet today many families on Six Nations still don't have access to safe drinking water. That is unacceptable. It needs to be addressed with urgency. Potable water is not a privilege, it's a human right. The Conservative government will invest in clean water, affordable housing, infrastructure, Indigenous-led workforce training, and entrepreneurship. We'll work respectively and quickly to resolve land claims. We'll support Indigenous-led education initiatives that protect language and culture. A Conservative government will prioritize real partnerships with real outcomes. Indigenous communities deserve more than promises. They deserve progress.
In.
Pierre Poilievre voted against implementing the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. The Harper government had many years to deal with boiling water advisories. Nishnawbe First Nation, 29 years later, still has a boiling water advisory. I do recall when our Prime Minister, our former Prime Minister, was at a Liberal fundraiser in Ottawa, a room full of well-off Liberals, and a group of First Nations entered that fundraising event, and the Prime Minister mocked those people in front of cameras until the security people removed them. And what shocked me more than anything, and what made me so ashamed of being a Canadian, was all those Liberal donors that left. So we cannot trust Liberals to do these things, because for 4 years ago, they were supposed to remove these boil water advisories, and they still haven't. The NDP will implement all calls to actions on the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and we will invest in housing and bring healthcare closer to these communities. Thank you.
Question number 5. What do you see as the two most important issues facing our community, and how does your party's platform present the best solutions to these issues? Starting with Larry.
I've addressed affordability and crime and public safety. I first want to congratulate the NDP candidate, Anne Gajerski, Karleigh, for stepping into this political race. I know that she and her party care deeply about affordability, as does the Conservatives. But unfortunately, Canadians are suffering under the worst food inflation in 40 years. Food prices have skyrocketed over 20%, and food bank usage has more than doubled in 5 years. Brantford, in fact, has officially declared a food insecurity emergency. Brantford Food Bank reports an 86% increase in usage, and some of the people lining up today used to be proud donors. Conservatives have a real plan to bring home affordability. Axe the carbon tax for consumers and industrial, cut income tax by 15 to 13%, scrap the GST on new home builds under $1.3 million, and cut building taxes. Now, on the issue of crime and public safety, after a lost Liberal decade, violent crime is completely out of control. Their failed policies have created harm and havoc in our communities, including this riding. Violent crime up 50%, gun crime up 116%, human trafficking up 84%, extortion astonishingly 400%, and sadly over 50% of Canadians have died from fentanyl. That's more than the number of Canadians who fought valiantly and gave up their lives in World War II. This is a result of the Liberals' failed soft on crime agenda. I put a question out to Joy O'Donnell, the Liberal candidate. Will she promise that she and her party will completely reverse the disastrous policies pronounced under C-75 and C-5?
Joy?
Well, crime continues to be an issue for our area and for other areas in Canada. That's why we have announced that the fund hiring thousands of additional RCMP officers and border agents. We are determined to stop illegal drug and gun flow from across the borders into our communities. We have to eliminate the car theft, the gangs, the cartels, operations. And Mark Carney also has pledged more funding for public prosecution services in Canada. We will do everything possible to protect children from online bullying and sexual predators. We will target more funding for first responders. We will toughen the criminal code for repeat offenders, members of organized crime, and those guilty of intimate partner violence and home invasions. It is also really important to remember that we must stop crime before it happens, that we focus on the victims as well as the criminals. We will continue to go after and put away drug traffickers and cyber criminals. Hate speech and hate crimes have no place in Canada or Canadian society. A Carney government will make sure that crime is eliminated for everyone.
Time's up. Karleigh?
Two main local priorities I'm hearing are the escalating tariffs, as well as the affordability crisis that we already have that is going to continue to rise for our individuals in our community, as well as our public sector. I want to take a time to mention that everything that I've mentioned today, everything you'll see on our website is part of our public plan. And we also will have a chance to release our public platform before Election Day. You will see on April 16th our platform come to life, and you will also see a fully costed platform through the Parliamentary Budget Officer before Election Day. Just in case you're wondering how you think we're going to pay for these things, we need to take the next few years very seriously. If you're hearing more slogans over policies, we're not well prepared to head into a tariffs war. We are going to be the ones that get hurt the most. So let's talk about the real world impact. Many essential goods from our hospitals, our fire departments, and municipalities are made in America. This is a problem. It's not made here in Canada. CT scans, machines, ambulances, fire trucks, defibrillators, diagnostic lab equipment, and even many pharmaceutical ingredients are the issues that we are seeing here today in our local riding. We rely on these tools to take care of our communities, and delays, cost increases, this is part of our public sector, which comes from taxpayer money, and also our supply interruptions are putting people's lives at risk. I'm hearing from many seniors that they said, I have paid too many years into our tax system to wait 8 hours at the hospital. Our Green Party plan for a resilient trade and supply chains includes making sure that we invest in Canadian manufacturing, we diversify our international trade, we build regional supply chains, Indigenous-led enterprises.
Before we go on to question number 6, Joy, Larry asked you a question. You've got 45 seconds to answer if you wish.
No, I did that.
You did that? Was part of your...
Now I'm going to say what my two top priorities are for our community. So the two important areas that I see for Brantford-Brant South Six Nations is the tariffs and trade. And we've talked about it quite a bit today. Tariffs and trade make things more expensive for everyone. Affordability for food is critical. But the whole idea behind it is to weaken our country so our sovereignty is at risk. That's the most important thing as a nation right now, making sure that Canada is strong and we can stand up and fight with a strong economy. The second important area that I see for our community is opioid addiction. We are the second only to Thunder Bay for the number of opioid addicted individuals in our community. It is a crisis that we have to face. Unfortunately, it's a crisis that our municipality cannot pay for. It is a crisis coast to coast to coast, and we need a national plan to get out of this problem that was just escalating.
Thank you. Question number 6. Have we answered? Hey, I'm sorry. I'm just, lights are getting to me.
Definitely the tariffs and affordability issues. We already had the affordability issues before we saw these tariffs imposed upon us. So there is going to be an amplification of the affordability issues because of unemployment that will rise as a result of the tariffs and the vulnerability of this riding to this trade war. So what we need to do when people become unemployed, and they're fearful and they are scared and they're lacking access to resources. That is the time that we need to step up to the plate as a government, and we need to be supporting those people just as we did during COVID when we were into lockdowns, and the NDP fought very hard to make sure that Canadians got access to EI and to making sure that they could live through that period. So we need strong social supports. And how do we pay for this? We need to be taxing the wealthy, and not be cutting taxes. In a way that's going to hurt those who need it the most. The other thing in terms of affordability is we are going to take the GST off the essentials that families need, such as groceries, home heating, cell phone bills. We also intend to put price caps on groceries because people need to eat. And we're also going to build homes that people can actually afford. So those are really important things that we need to do in order to ride this out. Thank you.
Question number 6. Brantford-Brant celebrated its 30th anniversary this year, underscoring our riding's significant agricultural base and its economic diversity. How does your party plan to support our farmers and the economy they support, including transportation and warehousing? Starting with Anne.
For our farmers, farmers are small business owners, and the NDP supports small business. And what we need to be doing as a party, as a country, we need to be ensuring that our farmers get the kind of supports that they need to continue on their family farms that their families have had for generations and generations. The NDP does not want to see a situation where small farmers are squeezed out of their industry by corporate farms, and we need to do everything we can to ensure that.
Thank you. Joy.
Well, I was fortunate enough to attend the Brantford-Brant this year, and I wanted to thank everyone who I met there who provided so much education in regards to crops, egg production, beef, dairy, pork, and soil management, and how important all of that is to our food stability in our country and our community locally right here at home. I want to make sure that our agri-food sector needs protection and assistance. I know that that's the case. I will work with the government to protect the country's commitment to supply management. A Liberal government will continue to make strategic and important investments to our farmers, our ranchers, food producers. And we will enhance the National School Food Program with the Canadian Food Inspection Agency. So there's so much good work there. I can't say continue to go. I'm sorry, I thought it was being cut off. I just think it's so important that we support our farmers and our food belt. You know, everybody talks about the green belt for our environment, but right here in our riding, it is the food belt that needs protecting. We need food sovereignty, and we need to protect it now.
Mm-hmm. Good. Karleigh.
Thank you for this question, and Brantford-Brant, this is amazing to hear. I spent a lot of my time as well with Girl Guides doing some presentations to teach them where their food comes from. And one of my favorite activities is having a map of North America, showing them where bananas come from, where different items across our province come from. And I think we need to really make sure that we can send home this message to Canadians that we have amazing food that we can have here in Canada that is supporting local. So agriculture is huge in Canada, and we need to support the ag food sector. And this really comes from a made in Canada approach. Our farmers need to be protected, and we know that a country that can't feed itself, well, we tend to be pretty defenseless. So we need to invest into our local businesses. We need to enhance and invest into our local farmers markets, making it a priority. The food that we see in grocery stores needs to stop with food gouging, and I love that I'm starting to see more made in Canada approach. The more education our community receives, the more we can support local businesses. I love going out to Little Brown Cow because I know I step inside of that building and everything there is made in Canada. The more we continue to educate our communities, the more we invest to our farmers, we can support local and we can become a sovereign nation throughout the tariff war. We are not the 51st state, and we need to make sure we can continue to put food on our plates. Greens have been saying this forever. We need to invest into our local food source, not to be reactive, but to be proactive, and we have to start it now.
Larry.
Before I answer the question, John, I would note that in response to the question I put to Joy O'Donnell, nowhere in that 2-minute response did she promise to have the Liberal Party and herself reverse the dangerous catch and release bail policies and soft sentencing as addressed by 75 and Bill C-5. With respect to the agriculture question, since my election in 2021, I've proudly attended and supported the events and initiatives of the Brant County Federation of Agriculture, including Bite of Brant. Just last week, I was there supporting our local producers and farmers. We have a fantastic, great farming tradition in our riding, one built by multi-generational family farms that feed our country and power our local economy. But if you want that tradition to continue, we need to remove the roadblocks the Liberal government created. Conservatives introduced Bill C-234 to remove the carbon tax from on-farm fuels like propane and natural gas, but the Liberals instructed their allies in the Senate to filibuster the bill, blocking relief every step of the way. Meanwhile, input costs like fertilizer and materials like steel used in farm equipment are still being taxed under the industrial carbon tax, which drives up prices at every stage of production. A Conservative government will repeal the industrial carbon tax, lowering costs for fertilizer, equipment, and processing, will invest in roads and transportation networks so farmers can move their goods efficiently and compete globally. Will cut red tape and remove federal regulatory burdens that make farming more difficult and less profitable. We have a very proud agricultural heritage in Brant. We'll protect it by cutting costs and removing roadblocks for our next generation of farmers.
Thank you. Do you wish, you got 45 seconds.
I think I just want to make sure that our Conservative candidate, maybe he missed it when I said, we will toughen the criminal code for repeat offenders, members of organized crime, and those guilty of intimate partner violence and home invasion. I did answer this question, so I'm hoping that that satisfies our candidate.
Okay. Question number 7. How will you work to improve the justice system's approach to gender-based violence cases and reduce barriers for survivors seeking justice? Starting with Joy.
Mr. Justice, sorry. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question for me again?
How will you work to improve the justice system's approach to gender-based violence cases and reduce barriers for survivors seeking justice?
So I just mentioned that we will strengthen the criminal code in that area because we have to make sure that intimate partner violence is eliminated. It's through education and through involvement in the community. We've got to build support systems there for the victims, but also we need to bring all the people that ever have witnessed intimate partner violence so they don't grow up in a repeat scenario over and over again and take what they learned as children into the future. So we have to work with the social services programs that are available in the community to make sure that that is eliminated and people learn to treat each other with respect always.
Thank you. Larry.
I wish I had 10 minutes, John, to answer this question because this is deeply personal to me. As a former Crown attorney, I spent nearly 2 decades prosecuting cases of intimate partner violence. I saw firsthand the heartbreak and trauma that survivors go through. As many of you might know, in the last Parliament, I served as the Shadow Minister for Justice and the Attorney General. This is a file I take very seriously. The reality is there's a profound lack of trust in the system, and that's why many survivors have never come forward. That's why Conservatives announced a comprehensive policy on gender-based violence that puts victims first. A Conservative government will create a new criminal offense, assault of an intimate partner, which will carry tougher, mandatory sentences for abusers. We'll enforce stricter bail conditions for those accused of IPV, including mandatory GPS ankle bracelet monitoring. Any breach of those conditions will result in immediate imprisonment. No second chances. We will end, finally, the crime of passion loophole. There will be no more downgrading of intimate partner murder to manslaughter based on emotional excuses. The murder of a partner, one's own child or a partner's child, will be treated as first-degree murder always. We must restore trust. Victims need to feel heard, believed, and supported by the legal system, not re-victimized. I've made it my mission, both in the courtroom and now in Parliament, to fight for that change.
Thank you. Karleigh.
Yeah, women are in a tough spot when it comes to, and men as well, in gender-based violence, because life is unaffordable. Where are women to go? Where are men to go if they need support? Right now with Nova Vita, they're doing a wonderful job making sure to bring awareness to this issue. When it comes to building more supportive housing, we can get to the root of this issue. A lot of community members cannot, as one single person, cannot move out on their own. There's not affordable housing. Our federal government has not built affordable housing since the 1970s, and we need to make sure that that support is there so that they aren't continued to be trapped in the same system. We need a place for people to go to feel safe, and a home is a space to be safe. And right now, 2 incomes are even hard enough to maintain a house. I see where individuals are struggling. And as well, if you have a home, you then have to lose your home to make some really tough choices. So we need to make sure that there's the support there to end gender-based violence. We need to listen to our victims. There's so many times that our victims' stories are being diminished, but also not being fully heard, in reefs of understanding that their stories are very vulnerable. But we need to get to a part with our government that we shouldn't be reliving our trauma to demand action from our government. And right now, we need to address the root issues that are going to alleviate many people out of that system. And it's heartbreaking. Intimate partner violence happens right at home, behind a closed door, in between walls that nobody else has to see until they can share their story. And we need to bridge that gap to make sure that the stories are heard as soon as possible, that they know they have support in the community, and that they know they can leave the situation that they are in by making sure we support the affordability crisis first. Listen to our community members.
Well, if most of the victims of gender-based violence are women and girls, I don't see how getting tough on the perpetrators is going to get at the problem if most of these assaults go unreported or they never make it to prosecution, because women probably feel that it is not worth it to go through the criminal justice system to get justice. Many women do not want to get re-traumatized. They do not want to take a stand. They don't want to be face a defense attorney. What we need to do is we need to, first of all, provide a system where that's heard and respected. We need to educate the public, and we need to educate the public on that it is not a worthless journey to actually seek justice in the justice system on these matters. And we also need to be providing adequate and full government funding for homes for for the victims, so that they need to leave, that many of these homes for women in crisis are not having to do bake sales and do walkathons. Thank you.
Thank you. Question number 8. It's been 2 generations since the country's last Royal Commission on Taxation, and our system has become bloated and inefficient. How will your party improve the collection of revenue and the reduction of red tape in Canada? Starting with Karleigh.
So first, when it comes to our taxes, it's so disproportionate right now because we are being taxed on $15,000 of our income. You make $15,000, anything above that is you start paying federal income tax. We know affordability is a crisis right now, so we need as Greens to make sure that we can be a voice as an MP in Ottawa to make sure that we can increase that federal income tax bracket to $40,000. So only until you make $40,000 do you start being taxed, because we need to make sure that when tax season comes, we're not pushing that away because of the scare of owing the government more money. So when it comes to those who are making under $40,000, we need to make sure that we put more money back into your pockets. When it comes to red tape, we need to decrease red tape to build the affordable housing, but also in many other areas. So when we have a smart government, we take time to understand policy that most of the time doesn't cost any more money inside of our budget, but it takes collaboration, it takes unity, and it takes understanding and working across party lines to get work done. But right now, we're seeing 2 polarization that's happening inside of Ottawa, and outside of this election, we know that it's not just 2 parties that are being represented there. So when it comes to a smart green government, we need to make sure that we are not taxing those that are just struggling to get by, and we make sure that we tax the rich, which are the richest 1% that can give just a little bit more while we're going through a tariff war, especially that, as we know, can be a looming recession. Thank you.
Joy.
Okay, so our tax system does need to be reformed. There's no doubt about it. We can discuss the percentages of where the taxes kick in, whether it's 15,000, 25,000, 40,000. But the bigger issue for our tax system is that social services are accessed through CRA by completing your tax return. And unfortunately, the most vulnerable people who need those services are not able to complete their tax return. It's difficult. It's confusing. It's just overwhelming to the point where they don't do it, and then they don't qualify for the social services that they would be able to access. So we are starting to see this now. CRA is building out their system where they will gather all the T4s, T5s, all those documents that people are constantly looking for the Canada Post to deliver. They are now online at CRA, so you can go on and see what tax systems you should have. But eventually what will happen is, like in the UK, Revenue Canada will do your tax return, send you the bill, and if you get a refund, you get a refund. If you get a tax, if you owe, you will owe, and then you can put in a response saying, I don't think this is correct. But basically, your taxes will be done, and if you qualify for social services, you will get it.
Anne.
Yes, we absolutely need reform in terms of our taxation system, because our taxation system is based on rewarding the wealthy and the corporate sector, and that bulk of tax revenue is coming from middle-income Canadians. So we do need to, as a society, we need to equalize, because we look at countries that are that are the happiest, the healthiest, such as the Scandinavian countries. You have a much more equitable distribution of wealth in those countries. And so the richer people get, a small number of people get, and the poorer middle class Canadians and lower income people get, the more problems you're going to have. So redistribution of income through our tax system is needed. And we need to do that. And I remember in my lifetime when half the revenue of the federal government was from corporate tax, and the other half was from income taxes from workers, and that has been whittled down over the decades. Out of the fear that if we tax corporations on their profits, that somehow they're going to leave the country, that we're staying in, and that we're in a global economy for corporations to come and go as they please, and we need to stop giving into that fear. And the other thing I find, like, I don't know why the government doesn't do something about this, but to participate in the getting a tax credit, if you want to donate to a party, you have to make a certain amount of income, and it does not help a low-income person to contribute.
Thank you. Larry.
So here's the sad reality. Canadians are paying more in taxes than they are for food, housing, and heat. Let that sink in. It's simply unfair. Conservatives will cut income tax by 15% on the first bracket, a tax cut for seniors and workers that will save a family almost $2,000. Let seniors earn up to $34,000 tax-free so they can keep more of their pensions. Repeal the industrial carbon tax to lower costs across the country. Introduce a 2-for-1 rule to eliminate red tape. For every new regulation, 2 must go. Crack down on offshore tax havens used by the wealthy and politically connected to dodge Canadian taxes. We will offer a 20% reward for whistleblowers who report rich tax cheats. We're going to close loopholes that allow well-connected corporations to benefit while small businesses struggle. And we'll focus CRA enforcement efforts on major tax evasion. Let's face it, the last major tax review was 60 years ago. It's time to modernize our system and ensure that taxes reward work, not punish it. Conservatives will reform our tax system to make it simpler and fairer and lower taxes to bring home investment, jobs, and work to Canada.
Thank you. That's all the time we have for questions. The candidates will now make their closing remarks, and I remind you that each will be allowed 2 minutes, starting with Karleigh.
Thank you, John. Do not settle. These are for everybody who's listening at home. After tonight, keep asking all candidates these hard questions and get out there and vote. If they're not answering hard questions, it's because they don't have that voice to give you when they get to Ottawa. Vote for true leadership, real answers, accountability, and a trustworthy, proven community leader who will give you hope for a better future. It is possible. This election has to be about smart governance. If we're making quick decisions like cutting 1 red tape or cutting 2, giving 1, Larry's speech over there, it actually needs to be thoughtful. We need smart governance. We need policy making that's not playing party games. We need real answers because our democracy is a real threat right now. We are seeing members settle for strategic voting instead of voting in the strongest candidate, and it is because of a polarization between 2 parties. It's a failure of leadership with principle, and what I'm offering is data-driven, solution-focused policies that address root causes, because we know a healthy, financial, secure workforce means a stronger economy and a more stable society with less pressure on our already overstretched healthcare system. You have a leader in me who is eager to be your voice in Ottawa, and we all know that good leadership isn't just loud, but it is inclusive by nature, and that's who I am. It's communicating with clarity, leads with empathy, and upholds accountability and carries a real vision for the future. Everything I said are all key characteristics that we know of as a good leader. So please know that I'm a candidate that will continue to show up for you long after the signs come down, and I will continue to be there month after month, year after year.
Time's up. Joy.
This is a very serious and historic election for Canadians. The world around us has changed more than we ever thought possible, and we are in the fight of our lives as we want to survive as a people and as a nation. The party that I represent, the Liberal Party, has the leader, the team, and the plan to start on day one to protect Canada and Canadians. Mark Carney is the right man at the right time. We need a leader who is respected across Canada, in Washington, and around the world. For this election, here in this riding, we need a representative who sits in government, not the opposition. An MP who can get things done, a person who can deliver, and who will work for all the people. I will be there for you. I will be there to represent you. We need a local representative who can work with the federal government. We need to deliver now. We need a global and national solution that will help us locally. We need to build, protect, and secure our future for our children and our grandchildren. I have knocked on thousands of doors and met with dozens of community leaders, and most importantly, I have listened to you, the people. My roots are deep in this community. It is where my husband Joe and I raised 2 sons, and where my parents instilled in me the responsibility of giving back to our communities. No matter how you voted in the past, this time I'm asking you to consider voting for me. I need your support to get things done in communities across Brantford-Brant South 6 Nations. On April 28th, I humbly ask for your vote. Canada strong, never 51st. I'm Joy O'Donnell, your Mark Carney Liberal candidate.
Anne?
Anyone looking at the polls, and I'm sure many Canadians are, we can see that the Liberals have a very comfortable lead in this election process. And please do not fall victim to fear-mongering that if you elect a majority government, that will be the best for what's in Canada, because you had a Liberal minority government for the last number of years, and because the NDP had 24 MPs and who helped to stabilize the government, 4 million Canadians gained access to free diabetes medication, and 3.5 million Canadians got access for dental care that they otherwise may not have been able to afford. So we need New Democrats in Ottawa in order to keep the government honest and to keep a government from giving away too much in any negotiations with the U.S. administration. Thank you.
Larry?
Every day I go to work, I remind myself of who I represent, the great people of Brantford-Brant South 6 Nations. I'm not your typical politician. I'm a straight shooter, I don't double talk, and I don't do this for applause. I was born and raised in Brantford, and I truly love and care deeply for this community, and because I know how serious the challenges are. Before politics, I served as your Crown Attorney for nearly 2 decades. I worked with victims, police officers, and families to make our streets safer and stand up for justice. That same results-oriented mindset is what I've brought to Parliament every day since. This riding needs more than broken promises. We need homes young people can afford. We need taxes that reward work, not punishment. We need safe streets, clean water, better access to health care, and leadership that puts Canada first. After 10 years of the Carney-Trudeau government, we've seen a decade of decline, higher costs, more crime, housing out of reach, and promises to our Indigenous partners left unfulfilled. You deserve better. You deserve a government that works as hard as you do, that builds, not blocks, that protects jobs, restores accountability, and puts Canada first. It's that kind of leadership you want. If that's the kind of leadership you want, someone who listens, delivers, and never forgets where they came from, I'm asking for your support as your next member of Parliament. Now let's bring it home.
Thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for sharing your thoughts with us today and your commitment to our community and our riding. I'm sure today's discussion will greatly assist the residents of Brantford-Brant South 6 Nations in making their very important decision on April 28th. Thank you to Rogers for partnering with our Chamber of Commerce Brantford-Brant and to provide the opportunity for residents of the business community. Again, from myself, the Chamber, and my entire Board of Directors, I thank you, I wish you all well, and thank you for joining us. Remarks from our independent candidates will follow the debate. Please exercise your right on April 28th. Thank you.
My name is Chloe Marie, independent federal candidate running for the Brantford-Brant South Six Nations riding. I am almost done my studies in law, human rights, and Indigenous studies, and all of this time learning has only confirmed what I was worried about all along. Something needs to change. And that's why I am running as an independent, inspired by the 3 reforms presented by the Revolution Party. Firstly, food and shelter as a human right, from nationalizing food banks to universal basic income, sustaining the environment, and respecting the traditional land rights of Indigenous peoples. It's not too good to be true. It's all possible, especially with the 2 other policy platform pieces. Taxing the ultra-wealthy to fund these social programs, and electoral reform, giving people a more democratic system that allows for their votes to count is essential to revitalize people's interest in politics and get those who are apathetic out to the polls. I don't see my values represented in this federal government, which uses taxpayer dollars to fund pipelines on Indigenous lands when Ontario hosts the 3rd largest nuclear power plant in the entire world. I'm tired of seeing the ultra-wealthy strive while people in my community struggle just to stay alive. Food and shelter shouldn't be revolutionary. This election, please consider what policies candidates are suggesting and do what's best for you and your community. Thank you for your time.
Hi there, I'm Mike Clancy. Vote Mike Clancy for caring. See my websites maturedemocracy.net and maturedemocracy.ca. A mature democracy protects and cares for the people, but liberals and conservatives made Canadians poor when they signed NAFTA and sent thousands of our jobs to China. And then they paid public servants where I worked to wrongly deny funding for First Nations and wrongly deny you your employment insurance, your welfare, and your disability benefits. And I refused to do that. Now 2 million Canadians need food banks and 80,000 are homeless. Mothers say their daughters are assaulted in the shelters. Where is the reconciliation for First Nations? When Polyev and Karleigh accuse each other of selling out Canada to American corporations, believe them. Both parties deny you the necessities of life. Dare to deny them your vote. Vote Mike Clancy for caring. As a citizen advocate, I used Canadian law to win money, dignity, and health care for Canadians. As your MP, I will use Canadian law to raise your wages, number 1, to $25, double OW, ODSP, and old age security, 2, control the cost for food and rent on all apartments, and fine greedy landlords for illegal evictions, and 3, save public health care from the Liberals and Conservatives. I'm on your side. You should be too. Vote Mike Clancy for caring in Brantford-Brant and Six Nations. I'm inspired by Tommy Douglas, the Baptist minister, the socialist who used the law to win health care, social services, and pensions for you. Vote Mike Clancy for caring.
Due to the length of the preceding program, we now join the regularly scheduled program already in progress. in particular, teachers and administration have made addresses, some directly about the motion and some welcoming in general. And then as far as it goes in the circles I am outside of school with friends or general communities, I've heard a lot about concerns from everything from specifically the LGBTQ plus group to concerns about censorship in general. And a lot of people are very much wanting to rally against this.
How about you, Raven? What has been the impact of the motion just being tabled so far?
Well, I first found out about the motion actually when I was in Real Group because the leaders brought this forward to all of us. And well, there was an outrage because we were honestly shocked that we've even gotten back to this point. Because putting the pride flag up was a symbol of inclusion and being accepted by the school, and taking that down, for us at least, is telling us that we're no longer accepted, we're no longer allowed in these schools.